So this week's topic comes from the Coverbandconfidential email address. This is from Dane, and Dane says, just found your pod, and I'm really enjoying it. Thank you. You're welcome, Dane.
Thank you, Dane.
If you did discuss this topic, I most likely haven't heard it yet since I'm binging to catch up. I see so many cover bands locally completely ignore the time between songs in their set list. I've been in multiple bands where we've had our show completely down, including transitions and locking songs together, or where the show was push play and go for the entire set. We pre-plan and practice our transitions, and it made things go much easier and more comfortable. I am having a hell of a time getting my current band to buy into the importance of knowing and understanding the importance of transitions. Whether it be locking songs together, starting the next song before the applause dies, taking a break to quickly thank the club staff, having our singer have a list of talking points to quickly go to in case there's a technical issue and we need to distract and kill time, introducing the song, or having some quick banter during the intro of a song, etc. We look like a band that just goes up and bangs out each song with dead air in between and misses out on opportunities to keep the crowd engaged, the energy up, and dancers on the floor. I can't remember what episode it was, but you guys did touch on it a little. I do remember hearing 5 seconds is too long in between songs, and unless someone is hollering at me, I'm counting the next song in, and I agree. 5 seconds feels like an eternity. I could go on, but I think you get the point and probably have a lot of examples, experiences, and or suggestions.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we'll kind of go into the next part of this as we, kind of go through the discussion.
Yes.
So the main conversation is, how do you keep the momentum going when your band's playing a show?
And Dane's right on it here. The main thing that I do is, well, look, let me back up. There are approaches that work that are not the one that I do. Okay. There are people who do a whole like storytelling thing between songs, and they're engaging and they're amazing. That is a thing that can happen. Maybe not so much in the cover band world. It's kind of more of a singer-songwriter thing, maybe.
Yeah.
But no, in our world, in my band, 5 seconds is the absolute max between songs. And when we get the track thing dialed in, I'm actually going to change it so that Band Helper fires the recording when I move into the song, to just even cut out the time it takes me to find the play button and push play.
Right.
Because the time between songs is absolutely killer. It's absolutely critical. And with my band that doesn't use tracks, The New Strange, we have addressed that by putting together a bunch of medleys. Each of our sets, both, if we're doing a 3-hour show, both sets probably has 3 medleys in it, which is maybe not half of the time of the set, but close to it. And so that means there's literally no time between songs. We don't necessarily do mashups. We don't like refer to songs inside songs, which we could do. We just haven't done the work of that. That's a whole other level of thing. But we do have songs that run right into one another and go for 18 to 20 minutes.
Sure.
And I think that's really great. I think it's really important. One of the things that when I've played with people who didn't have a grip on this, what jumped out was between songs, there was this like, all right, you ready? This is a moment of like, ready? And I'm ready. I'm ready. I am. In my band, the expectation is, unless you're telling me otherwise, you're ready, and I'm counting in, and we're going. Like, tell me if you're not, we'll do something. But the expectation is like the song ends, 1, 2, 3, we're going right into the next one. So I very much feel the message here that our Dane,
yes,
is asking about. I'm the same way. I want it to bang right into the next song. I don't want to lose a single drop of energy between tunes. And I feel that's pretty important.
Yeah, the thing that jumps out at me is what it sounds like is that he's been in groups where they had their act together.
Yeah.
And frankly, if you don't think about your show that way, you don't have your act together.
Yeah.
Because having your act together means your act is together. And
your
things
whole
are
act.
done.
The entire act.
Yes. The show is the priority, and it is considered, and those things are orchestrated in a way where things are flowing in the way that they're supposed to.
Yeah.
So talking about the tools that we all use. So Band Helper, for an example, you can go in and add breaks to
Yes.
your song list in order to make sure that when transitions need to happen, when pauses need to happen, they can.
Yep.
And you can add notes to those and basically like create an opportunity to share a piece of information. So when we put a show together, there are going to be periods of time where there's going to be changeover. People have to switch instruments. People have to pick something up to put something down. People have to tune, whatever. And you need to build those breaks into the show and almost build the show around them.
Yes.
So things that I do, because as a vocalist, I'm not always the person playing an instrument. Sometimes I get to be just the lead singer. So when we print out our song list or a set list for a show, I put asterisks next to all the songs that I play guitar on. And I try to put them into blocks as much as I can because
Right.
that reduces downtime of me picking stuff up or having to check tuning or whatever. So that's something that you need to take into account when you are building your set order. The other thing is that you know that if you're doing a public show or there is a particular kind of itinerary for the event, that certain things need to be communicated to the audience. And it is much better for you to write those things out and put them together ahead of time
Mhm.
than to kind of do them willy-nilly as you go.
Hope you remember them along the way. Yeah.
Right. And something that we've discussed a lot in the Patreon community is what to do in the moments where something does need to happen. How do you
Mhm.
keep the momentum going? I mean, this is pretty much just a continuation of what we were talking about last week.
Yes.
How do you keep the thing going? How do you keep the energy level up? How do you continue to engage with an audience when just logistical things have to happen? And to pick up, the rest of what Dane was mentioning, he was like, a lot of this falls on our singer because, if you've got a person who is fronting the band, they are kind of the ringleader. They're the person who's kind of controlling the flow of the show.
Yes.
And in their case, he's saying that their singer's not well versed in fronting a band, which is fair. A lot of times, singers aren't necessarily chosen. They kind of fall into it. So in a lot of situations,
Yeah. That's true.
people may not have practical experience fronting a group.
Yeah. And it's a different skill from singing.
Yep.
MCing, right? Being the person keeping the energy up and keeping the energy going. I mean, this is the thing. Like we think in party bands we are musicians. We're not. We are energy architects.
Yes, we are
And
entertainers.
yeah, and there's a really good podcast who has this thing that they say called always be performing.
Yes, absolutely.
And that means between songs too. So
Mhm.
always be performing, never not be performing. And that takes something. That takes, a song and there was a my high school had a rock band that we did. It was the school's cover band, essentially. I stood up my own because I was sick and tired of the music teacher, but
Mhm.
the band the school had one. And the kid we had singing lead at our first performance of the year literally turned around, put his back to the audience, and sang to the band. Did the whole show facing away from the audience. And I was like, I mean, Jim Morrison did that, but it was like an artistic show. There was more going on than what you're doing, buddy. This was poor. He was a good singer, but the what it takes to stand in front of an audience and be the focal point for that, and that's a different skill set. And
Yep.
you got to build it. If
Yep.
you're either born with the ability to the spotlight hits you and you start to shine. I'm fortunate that I do have some training and skills around that I've built over time, but that is more my inclination than not. Not everyone's that way by any stretch. You're the
I'm
opposite.
not I'm not
Yeah,
that way.
yeah, yeah. So you've built skills to be able to, and it's not hard. Everybody
Well,
having
yeah.
fun tonight.
Well, yeah, and also there's different brand like flavors of persona.
Yeah,
The one that just works for me is that I've got a fantastic foil in my wife
right,
who is fantastic. She is that person.
right.
I I like playing the aloof kind of foil
Yeah,
to her
right.
because again, if there's two of those people in a band, that's too much.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have to have a way to balance it out. But the thing that really this all boils down to is intentionality.
Mm.
So, the thing that Dane is mentioning is like at some point we need to have this come to Jesus moment. And it's the same conversation that is gonna happen with Mark's band this week. We have to decide what kind of band we're gonna be.
Yeah.
So in the process of building out your show, think about this stuff. Take the downtime into consideration and think about things that you can do to fill that space. So, at some point, Steve, the guitar player, is going to have to either switch guitars or tune to drop D. What are you going to do in that 45 seconds
Right.
to 90 seconds where that turnover needs to happen?
Yep. And by the way, the frontman talking a little while the drummer just keeps a beat going, that's plenty.
That's one. Or maybe this turnover is something that, is going to take a little bit more time and you want to kind of switch gears and do something that isn't necessarily musical in nature, but entertaining or on brand with what you're trying to do.
Sure.
We talk a lot about trivia breaks
Mm-hmm.
in the Patreon Slack. So if you're in like an eras group doing,
I have a deck of 80s trivia cards right
I've
here.
got one right over there too. So, that's a situation where it's a promo moment where you can go and, give out cheap giveaways like, your $5 DVDs or Shutter Shade.
Koozies. You've given a lot
Yeah.
of koozies away. Yeah.
But it's still a way to keep things moving while other stuff has to happen. And it's also kind of a good idea to have things in kind of your back pocket in the event that something goes awry.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just throw it out there. And Nathan, our drummer, needs to knock on wood or light a candle or whatever. Let's say after, in the middle of a song in the first set, he breaks his snare head or something goes wrong with his kick pedal. And all of a sudden we've got space to fill.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a perfect opportunity to shift gears and be like, all right, well, let's do 80s trivia. We'll do 3 questions. We'll give out 3 things. And that gives him 90 seconds to 2 minutes to fix that problem.
Right.
And actually, Mike Schulte was asking this question. He was like, this sounded like a hypothetical that was not hypothetical. It seemed very specific. He was like, imagine you get the chance to open for a national act and they give you 45 minutes. How do you build that show?
Right.
And his question was basically, do you do 45 minutes to the, like on the dot? Do you do 40 minutes? Do you do 43 minutes? And everybody kind of came in with a different solution. The one that I came up with was you put that 45-minute show down to the millisecond, and then you include 1 or 2 contingencies in the event that it doesn't go 100% according to plan.
Right.
So do the whole show on rails, even if it means like literally, like instead of taking your tracks and doing it, like literally make 1 45-minute long track, including the downtime, and put interstitials, sound bites, sound effects, clips from movies, TV shows, whatever, to fill that dead air while you are switching guitars or doing whatever, but really taking the time to orchestrate it so it is perfect.
But you've also got a fallback plan for when your drummer's snare head breaks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this, again, it boils down to, are you thinking about this as a musician or are you thinking about this as an entertainer?
Yeah. And are you thinking about it? Look, a professional has their butt covered in a lot of contingencies, maybe not all of them, but a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so, me showing up to my show and having my guitar rig not work is a great example of my not having my butt covered, right? It was an unprofessional move, right? But if you think in terms of what are the worst case, or at least not best case things that could happen that I need to be prepared for, and how can I build into my show some moments where I can keep what needs to happen happening while I deal with that.
Yeah. So, what I'm thinking about is our year's winding up and we've got some time to work through things. It's probably a good idea for us to go ahead and build out our show for 2025. And what that looks like for us is to build our normal 275 corporate event situation, our 2-hour municipal situation.
Yep.
And basically, like, go ahead and orchestrate these things. Because when you're doing these kind of public events, those are the ones where you really need to show up and show out. So if you know that in the summer you're going to do X number of these public events where you're going to do a 2-hour set and it's all killer, no filler, go ahead and build that show out and like build it. Make it a spectacle, make it an experience. Put the transitions in, put whatever show flow you're doing. Don't think just about the songs. Think about the flow, think about energy level, think about the emotional component. Like really drill down to what is going to make an audience member who's never seen you before, has no frame of reference, show up to a thing where they've got zero expectations and walk out going, holy hell, that was incredible.
Yeah.
What are these guys doing next?
Right.
And a little bit of planning. You and your bandmates spending 30 to 45 minutes on a random Thursday night.
Yeah.
You could do incredible work for your group over the next 12 months doing something like that.
Yes.
So highly recommend doing that. Spend this time as the year's winding down with some intention and build this show out where downtime is not a thing that exists. Every second is accounted for. Every move is accounted for. Everything is planned out ahead of time. And just, work through the contingencies where you can be flexible in the face of something going sideways and not panic, which is, wishful thinking, but whatever.
Well, if you thought it through in advance, if you thought through, you don't need to know what the emergency is to know that there'll be times you might need a minute.
Sure.
So plan it out. Build in those minutes.
And then also think about your systems. Think about if you're using playback, what's the most efficient way to manage that? If you are a guitar player, what is a solution to make sure that your instruments are as stable as they can possibly be tuning wise?
Yeah.
Think about the things that would typically cause downtime in your show and then take those opportunities to mitigate the risks of those things occurring.
Exactly.
I keep thinking about like every year I'm like, I'm going to buy a guitar with a Floyd just because I know that.
Will you ever gig it? I won't.
Oh, yeah. Because if I do, that's a guitar that never goes out of tune,
I mean, all right.
Is it a pain in the butt to set up? The intent of having a Floyd is not so that I can like dive bomb and do all of that stuff. But the idea of having a guitar that is always in tune, and then, maybe it's a flat mount and you can put a D-tuner in it, which means that even if you have to switch tunings, you can literally just, you pull a thing and like nothing else changes.
Right.
Like that's huge. That's a value add. That's something that's worth considering.
Yeah.
Or looking at guitars with Evertune bridges where like they like literally never got a tune ever.
Right.
You tune them once.
Yeah.
And then, for the end of time.
Those are pretty cool.
There are ways of doing this where you can literally, you put your guitar on and then the show just happens and that's it.
Also good. I have been working out how I'm going to automate all of my pedal changes from Bandhelper, from automation tracks and Bandhelper. It's so great. I mean, the ones that I did at our proof of concept show where it popped into my lead patch and I was playing the lead and then it popped back into the rhythm patch right on time. And it was great. It was great. I know it's a little different from presetting, the guitar to be reliable. That's not reliability. It's sort of ease of performance, but it's all in the same world. It's all about preparation. It's all about setup that gets you, able to. So now I'm able to engage with the crowd when I kick into my beginning of my solo rather than looking up from, did I hit the right stomp button on my thing, right? It's all about putting out the best performance you can. And that takes prior preparation.
Yep. But the good news is that right now you may have time to do that.
Right.
But it takes intention. Dan and I both stared down the barrel of gigs that we hadn't done before and we could have done more and we didn't.
Right.
So learn from our mistakes.
That's right. That's right. I don't regret what I did and didn't do. I'm perfectly happy, but
No
I could
regrets.
have, I could have done more, and will do.
Yeah.
It was a good toe in the water.
Yeah, so this is one of this is an episode where I'm going to like, sometimes the guys in the group listen to the episode, sometimes I'll be like, let's listen to this one. Let's see if I can get everybody on board. I did get a text from Jeff who apparently listened to the episode maybe I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before. He's like, "Hey man, thanks for saying that." Cuz I was like, "He's the best.
Yeah,
He's the person that needs to be doing that." He was like he appreciated being called out, for that. So,
good. He is the best.
I know it's just being a content creator where like everything is front facing is a little tricky because you do have to, you got to watch what you say or how you say things because you know that the guys that you work with and, care about the most, you're going to hear about it. So,
Totally, totally. Yeah.
it's a unique, set of challenges, but,
Listen, I'm aware that guys in the last band I was in listen to the
mhm,
podcast. So yeah, I gotta be respectful of. They were great. I love playing with them, and
yeah,
I love them as people, and it's all good. When that relationship was changing, I had to be a little more cautious about how I talked about it. But it's fine. It's all fine. It's all good.
yep. It all comes out in the wash, as they say.
Yep. Yep. 100%.
Well, Dane, hopefully that answers your question. I feel like all we did was kind of like reinforce your mindset.
But your
But
mindset is the right one, so reinforce it.
yeah, it's just that now you just have you gotta do the thing.
Right? No, we gave you work to do for sure.
I think that's literally what we're here to do. We're just here to make the person that's like the squeaky wheel in every band do more work.
That's right.
Yeah. So, you're welcome. I'm
Right?
sorry. Like, what
Or
do you say?
something. Yeah.
Dane, I've got mixed emotions about this, but hopefully this is what you were looking for.